we'll talk about this more when we get in the first group. But I wanted this one. I kind of pushed Trent into this one because I wanted a little break. It's been fun doing these,
Yeah.
but I wanted just to mix it up, not so textbook heavy. And I think this one does it. Rereading it again this week and preparing for today and getting into it. There's something exciting about kind of the history. We talk about how and what we do, and we've talked quite a bit about the history of surveying, but kind of the why behind it, how the measurements were set up. This kind of really got me excited about surveying again. Not that that ever left, but just just the greatness of what we do and the impact of what we do. And this book really gets into quite a bit about that and what makes America great, which is kind of another fun thing about this. All the accomplishments we've had. And in the introduction, it talks about the era at the time, Pennsylvania, and what it was. Right there, the
Yep.
East Liverpool wealthy area of Pennsylvania, the coal-fueled furnaces, and the Ohio River. And if you've ever been through that part of the country, it still has this reminiscent feel of that industrial age and the growth of America and the history of America. And so I'm hoping we get into some of that too as we talk through this. But just the funness of when we look at a deed and we have a chain in that deed, and what does that really mean? It's not just an antiquated piece of metal that half the surveyors are trying to pay to collect, and we don't even realize how that came about. So that's kind of what I'm hoping we get out of this and get quite a bit of discussion as we go through that, and maybe some personal experiences as people may have been in some of these areas.
Probably, I don't know if you did much on the introduction, but you want to go into in depth on that a little bit more. Oh, there's a couple more people jumping on. That's funny.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I was prepared if we want to go through the actual introduction.
I think so. Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and then anybody can kind of circle back and read it later or listen to it later or whatever. But yeah,
Okay.
I think it's
Well,
good. And there's so much loaded just in the introduction, right? Like
there,
it was
there,
oh
there it is.
yeah.
Um, and I tried to find a picture of um, Thomas Hutchins, and I couldn't find one online at
Hmm.
all. I thought that would have been a fun little thing to add in here, but there was not anything online to find there.
Tasha, you got one of those? What's in the BLM archives?
Right? I don't know that I do, but I can take a look.
That would be awesome.
That would be interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the interesting part of it is we kind of go off survey stuff. Having grown up in Utah, in the LDS or Mormon culture here, and it's not just here, but genealogy is
Yeah.
huge out here, and it's fun to think about areas where our ancestors came from and then understand how they lived, and so it gets into that in here. He sets the setting. East Liverpool, Ohio, sits on the banks of the Ohio River, just outside the Pennsylvania border. In every country with an industrial history, there are towns like this, and you drive through there. Like I said before, remnants of that old industrial age is there, worn out and abandoned warehouses and buildings, and we don't understand what lies behind that. The surveys behind it. We spent today and yesterday at it's the State STEM Fest, Utah State STEM Fest. We see somewhere between 10 and 12,000 elementary and junior high age kids, and we talk about surveying, and we have a fun little activity there for them to do. But as we talk with them and their teachers, the what surveying represents that they don't even understand. One of the activities we do when we go to elementary schools is we just go walk the parking lot and the playground with them, and we start talking about everything they see there that they take for granted. The light pole, the fire hydrant, the curbing that keeps the the mulch in on the playground, and we have them go back in the classroom and they start drawing that out, and they have a real appreciation for the stuff that's there. With the teachers, we can start talking about the PLSS system that's behind what we do, and you don't even realize everything that their properties are based off of. And it doesn't matter to them until they're required to have a survey, till there's a dispute. There's a really great podcast out there, if you're a podcast person, called 99% Invisible. And it's all about design and the invisible world behind everything. And so there's some really great episodes where they point out that stuff that we don't even notice in the everyday world, but is very methodical or very purposeful in the way they're done. And the land survey system is one of those very methodical, very purposeful system. The author of this book talks about how ownership of land wasn't a thing until the Americas. Mm-hmm. And so there had to be this system created to be able to track that and sell that off. And, it's based off of these ancient principles that date all the way back to, ancient Egypt and longer. So if you want to jump, Trent, onto page 2, the second paragraph, it says the language of the signs. It says the language of the signs is equally undemonstrative. A stone marker carries a plaque headed "The Point of Beginning" that reads 1,112 feet south of this spot was the point of beginning for surveying the public lands of the United States. There, on September 30th, 1785, Thomas Hutchins, the first geographer of the United States, began the geographer's line of the 7 ranges. So something we're survey nerds. That's why we're here. There's young students that want to learn stuff. There's those that we get into this and geek out about it. But there's just this little nondescript sign out there that denotes where this point of beginning is. Couple paragraphs down, it says, in this hilly country covered in the same oak, dogwood, and hickory that Hutchins saw, and in the bright light of a September afternoon, it rises high above the broad river in crimson and copper waves. For the distance of 46 chains and 86 links west, Hutchins wrote in his first description of the territory, the land is remarkably rich with deep, black mold, free from stone. He was Robinson Crusoe landed in an uncharted wilderness, and his purpose was to measure it so that it could be sold. And so those that are on here, how many of you have had the opportunity to go survey, perhaps not in uncharted territory, but actually go, traipse through some wilderness or mountain areas or forest areas that normally we don't get to go walk through and uncover section corners in our retracement. I get to do that quite a bit here in Utah. We got a lot of mountain and public lands, and so that's always fun to go. It's already been traced once. We're just retracing it, but you get a real feel for the difficulty that it was for these guys. And we're pretty lucky that it's, might be a couple of us, pretty light load, maybe a lath bag with a metal detector and shovel in the back and your GPS rod. But these guys carried tons of equipment and, had to have line of sight and lay that chain end over end. It's hard enough just to walk through there, let alone do what they did.
Yeah, I've done some looking for some corners up in the mountains and in similar situation where I'm like, if we find this corner, we'll probably, or don't find it, we might be the only people ever to come around here, right? And then you turn the corner and all of a sudden you see like a horse trough full of water, and you're like, oh, I guess we're not the only people around here.
Or in Wisconsin, we found some 12-foot chain link fence, and right in the middle of some really deep forested areas, and what's on the other side of the fence and why it's there, and you just slowly back away back into the trees like you were never there. But so he says it's easy to miss the significance of what was being proposed. They didn't even understand what a great vision this was going to become. It talks about the origins of this back to the Middle East and Egypt, and why they did it, to mark the boundaries of areas need to be irrigated by the annual flooding of the Tigris and the Nile. And measurement is still older than that. It's always just kind of happened. But here's giving purpose to those things that have been around. Talks about measurement being a type of language back then. It is universal. Every society, every culture has had to do some sort of measurement. Again, this experiment of the public land survey system being the first to really use this to own and sell land, but measurements always happen from a from selling seeds or fruit or whatever it might be. They've always been measured to give quantity to something, and now we're giving quantity to land. He says here in the middle of this next page, only when it changes, when half a gallon of cola becomes 2 liters in the 1990s, for instance, or a fifth of whiskey reappears as 750 milliliters, is there a reminder that there's nothing certain about these units after all. And we've experienced that. We've gone from chains to U.S. survey feet to international feet. Some of our states have made experiments with going to meters. Utah did that in the early 90s, late 80s, and it failed miserably. So you got a few surveys and deeds out there that are actually written in meters. And here again, we're playing and tinkering with this system as science has grown all across the United States. Our state societies and NGS is preparing to release new state plane coordinate systems. Right now, the Utah Council of Land Surveyors has a file open for our next legislative session to codify the next state plane coordinate system and what that means and how it will be used in the state. So we're still tinkering and learning with this. He talks about on page 5, the middle of page 5, it says, the land would be measured in chains and links. In most circumstances, a chain imprisons. Here it released. It released this land to be sold. What it released from the billowing, uncharted land was a single element, a distance of 22 yards. That length of the chain, invented by the 17th century English mathematician Edmund Gunter, it was the surveyor's one indispensable tool, and the fact that it's 22 yards were to become integral not only to the game of cricket in his own country, it's the length of the pitch, I didn't know that, but to the town planning of almost every major city in the United States. The lengths of most city blocks are multiples of it. Most roads are 2 chains, or 1 chain wide. It was a tribute to the instrument's usefulness. Repeated often enough, added, squared, and multiplied, a measurement with Gunter's chain would give the land beyond the Ohio a numerical value that someone could compute in money. It ties to the human experience, and everything that would become America. And then the last thing, if I can share my screen, Trent, I want to share a poem. He quotes a poem by Robert Frost here. I wanted to put this up. So this Robert Frost poem says, the gift outright. The land was ours before we were the land's. She was our land more than 100 years. Before we were her people, she was ours. In Massachusetts, in Virginia, but we were England's, still colonials, possessing what we still were unpossessed by, possessing by what we now no more possessed. Something we were withholding made us weak until we found out that it was ourselves. We were withholding from our land of living, and forthwith found salvation in surrender. Such as we were, we gave ourselves outright. The deed of gift was many deeds of war. to the land vaguely realizing westward, but still unstoried, artless, unenhanced, such as she was, such as she would become. So these measurements have unlocked the American dream, unlocked this idea of land ownership, and those that are familiar with the writing of the Declaration, it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the original line was life, liberty, and I can't remember owning of property. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the original line of that actually had to do with ownership and property and being able to make oneself, and the intent of that was setting us apart from our colonial rulers. And so the growth of measurement in America unlocked the American dream and what she is today. So I think that's a pretty cool vision of what I hope we uncover reading throughout this book and what we're a part of. Many surveyors deal with civil engineers and design, and the growth of properties and the development of properties, and we have a large hand in that can't be denied.
Yeah, I was trying to think of there was also the section where he talked about how surveying really created the whole commerce, right? And I thought that was fairly early on in the first one or two paragraphs, but it was kind of talking about the commerce side of what the survey profession brings. And I thought that was kind of a really good one, but I gotta try to find it again.
I know which one you're talking about. I think I had that highlighted here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the top of page 4. It says, incised bone and clay counters used for counting or exchange have been found at Neolithic village sites in Turkey, dating from the 9th millennium BCE, more than 10,000 years ago. While the Sumerian cuneiform script, the earliest form of writing, does not appear until 5,000 years later. In modern society, this remarkable human achievement is almost invisible.
Yep.
Glancing down supermarket shelves, we examine the prices, but we have to make an effort to register the weight of a cereal box or the capacity of a carton of juice. Weights and measures are given. A pound or a gallon, like a mile or an acre, will be the same from Florida to Alaska, and so will a bushel of wheat and a cord of wood and 100 other units of measurement. It is a language that is picked up automatically and spoken without conscious thought.
Yeah, that's the section I was thinking about. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about shrinkflation a lot, right?
Yeah.
A carton of milk or a box of cereal has gotten smaller and smaller, but measurements can't do that, right? You can't shrink a piece of land, the ownership of that, what you have rights to is that's set.
Yeah.
And the unit of measurement may change, but your land is still that. Whether the old deed said it was, 3 chains long, or, the feet equivalent of that, or a meter equivalent of that, or whatever it might be, it still will always be 3 chains long. You can't change that.
Yep. I know we've had some conversations as well, like about the commerce side of the profession when it comes to sometimes with the deregulation fights that we're having as well, right? Like
Yeah.
how those property rights or those property disputes turn into bigger commerce issues and those kind of things that kind of the importance when it comes to licensure and protecting, their biggest assets, those kind of things, those kind of conversations of kind of what reminded me of that particular paragraph, right? And even in today's modern age.
Absolutely. Where no one's getting upset if they lose, 3 ounces of cereal in their thing, but if they lose 3 inches of their property, it's a huge fight.
Yeah. Right? Yep. Yeah. I'm looking forward to, breaking it down chapter by chapter, because just the introduction, there's so much loaded information in the introduction, but
he does, as an author, I think he does a very good job of painting the picture of what was going on at the time, but the importance of measurement, which is going to be different than the books we've read, where they're very much more textbook written. Right. To have this more realistic idea of what was happening in the Americas. Would be fun to tie that,
Yeah.
and then tie it to today's society too. I think that will be our exercise, right? Is to see how we apply that today.
And Tasha threw in, originally the GLO was created in 1812 and placed under the Treasury Department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The importance of those measurements and what they were trying to do to sell that off.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. For those, obviously you guys on here probably already know where to get the book or have the book or whatever, but um, I'll make sure that when I shoot it out in the next emails that we'll talk about it. But it is available on Amazon. You can get it overnight, pretty much, depending on your area. And then there is the audio version of this. So a little bit different than what the premise of Wisdom was. It was to try to turn some of these books into audiobooks, but this one has an audio version to it. So I think they're both fun to listen to. The audiobook side of it has a great narrator too. So, um, not some of those have some interesting voices, but this one's really good to listen to. So,
I've been a big book guy most of my career. It's great to put in a set of headphones, and
yeah,
I've listened to some really great books and some really terrible books. But for the first time, I actually listened to this while reading it, which was a whole other thing to kind of just.
yeah,
It's easier to take notes as I'm going through and highlight things that I thought were interesting instead of
yeah,
I got to read it and not get distracted, or I'm listening to it and doing something else. So that
yeah.
was a fun way of doing it.
That would be fun. I might have to try that.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to kind of go through. So, um, the plan, the way we have it kind of scheduled out is a chapter a week. Excuse me, next goes all the way to next June, the way the schedule works out. And it was going to kind of be like weeks, chapter 17 and 18, but we'll see how the flow goes. I mean, some of these might be some shorter ones. I remember some of them being a little bit shorter, so maybe we'll
Yeah.
okay a couple of them. But at this point, it goes until next June, kind of like we've done in the other ones. We've done, so we had our 5th anniversary for Mentoring Mondays on Monday.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that was
Congrats.
We've done 154 episodes on Mentoring Mondays, but what came from that, as I went back and looked back at Wisdom Wednesdays, so we've done, it took us 20 episodes to get through evidence, um, 15 to get through waddles, and 17 to get through pincushion. So yeah, yeah. And overall, between Mentoring Mondays, Roundtable Tuesdays, and Wisdom Wednesdays, we have 220 different episodes of content out there. So
Good. Well, do you have any good plans for with Mentoring Mondays coming up this fall?
this we kind of brainstormed a little bit yesterday and was trying to find a few conversations of what same type of thing, right? We've done so much different things, and so I really wanted to kind of brainstorm with people. So Um, a lot of what came out of it yesterday or on Monday was we don't have enough on construction. So a few more construction conversations, um, mentoring, a little bit more like hiring and mentoring the new hires, those kind of things. They wanted a few more like case study conversations as well, kind of like what we did. We did a couple of roundtable Tuesdays on boundary breakdowns and having that particular surveyor kind of go through their thought process. So we might just kind of scrap roundtables altogether and then maybe bring a couple of those formats over to Mondays. But so we'll see. But yeah, it was a few different ones. So life advice, what to do in retirement. That's a big one, obviously, that everybody's kind of talking about, especially with the big boomer exit here coming. So
Yeah, some of those business ones are
leadership,
really good.
yeah, work-life balance. Another one like we've talked about from workforce development as well, just changing roles, right? Like you were a great tech, but you get promoted through the all the way through management, and how do you manage the people? So finding some stuff on those conversations. So interview
Really good.
processes. So I'll track down a few people, but
Well, if you need a construction sticker, I'd be happy to put a class. I've got a couple I've done
oh, okay.
internally that would be really good ones, I think, and
Okay.
I'd be happy to jump in and teach one like that.
Yeah, because we've only done a couple, I know, over construction wise. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the missing link there, but so it'll be fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Anybody, what's everybody else's thoughts? It's always quiet on Wednesdays.
It
Everybody
is.
loves to listen, but nobody chimes in.
So I did want to ask, I haven't read
Please.
the book yet, but I'm
Okay.
I'm going to. Growing up in New York as a young surveyor and then coming here to South Carolina, I've always been interested in the history of the surveying in both states.
Of course.
And to link it back to the commerce thing you said, always interested in the surveying along the Erie Canal when it was first constructed.
Yeah.
And now that I live here in Myrtle Beach, of course, we are surveying along the Intracoastal Waterway.
Yeah.
Two very important things when they were done.
Heck yeah.
So, does the book go into any of those at all?
It does talk about the canal, and it's been. I read it the first of the summer, and I'm rereading it again for this. So I couldn't quite quote, but I do remember it starts talking about the canal and some of the commerce stuff there. I don't know how much it got to intercoastal stuff because really kind of the focus is going west and the expansion of the Americas with this
Mhm.
with
I
this.
got you. Okay. Yep.
But there's some great stuff, and Aaron, I don't know where you are in your career life, but I've heard some really great presentations. There was one done um, in Wisconsin. I'm trying to put one in here for Utah. Is the history of counties, and there was a survey that put one together in Wisconsin. When each county was formed, what shape it was, and they even got to names, and there are times in Wisconsin where they actually had two counties with the same name, and then they scrapped one county, and then some got absorbed, and some got split over time. And there's this really neat history of how surveying ties into establishing those counties. And I was really impressed with that. It's been about 10 years since I heard that one. So I've been putting one together on the history of counties
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
in Utah to look at, from a survey standpoint, where were they established? Were there, was it a township line or some other surveyed line that established that? And um, I think those two, yeah, canals, the coastlines, and that's also very appropriate today as water levels rise, right? And how does that affect us as surveyors, and land? And we can certainly talk about the vocabulary words, that we deal with of that and the implications. But when the rubber meets the road, when your water takes over your property or washes out your property, how do you approach that from a surveyor? Would be some really neat tie-ins there. Anyone else have any questions, comments about the book, or just any general discussion?
Yeah, I figured tonight would be a little shorter, but
Yeah.
we'll get into the meat of it on the 8th.
Yep. As soon as I hang up, I'm going to order it.
I just threw it in the chat. You can, like I said, you can also do it as an Audible. So, $14 on Amazon or $17 unless you have Audible. You can get them for free credits or whatever, but it's a good one. So, looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw just in here my email address.
There you go.
Reach out with questions. Certainly, if those that are on here, appreciate you guys being on here. But the plea always with this is come prepared to discuss it. So it's not just me talking. It was great this last year to have Jeffrey Lucas on here to help spur some of that conversation, talk about his perspective. Occasionally we get a couple of other heavy hitters, speaker circuit type surveyors, and they bring some. But I want to get the rest of everyone in talking about what your experiences are, and I think this book should be a good catalyst for that.
Yeah. I know John Stahl signed up, but he wasn't able to make it tonight. But I was looking forward to him chiming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when is the next meeting when we're going to discuss chapter 1?
It'll be October 8th.
Okay.
October 8th. I gave us a couple weeks to kind of get through it. And then, of course, we skip the fall meetings, and then it'll be the 22nd. So I do, I have
You're saying like 15 16 weeks to get through this.
Yep. Yeah, we do a
Yep.
chapter. So we meet kind of twice a month. Then it will be what we do November 5th, November 19th. I'll send you a calendar invite, Aaron. And then like two in December, the 3rd and the 17th, and then like January 14th and 28th. So we kind of it jumps around a little bit. We used to do the second and fourth Tuesdays, but this particular schedule with some Thanksgivings and everything's rolling in Christmases, it just doesn't
Yeah.
work out that
Yep.
way. But I do have it set as a you can I think you can even download it from the Zoom link, but I'll send you the calendar invite. Aaron.
Yeah, if you would, please. That's the easiest for me.
Yep. Yeah, and then you can just save it in there. So yeah, it'll be fun conversations. But
Yeah. And then I don't know how many are West Coast, but we've got our West Coast conference coming up in March, and it would be a good time to meet people in person. And
yeah, Tasha should be there. Alaska, because Alaska's part of it. So,
Yeah, that's West Fed March 18th through 21st.
exactly. Yep. It's gonna be fun. It'll barely even meet the Wisconsin normal attendance. We're thinking somewhere around 1,000, but Wisconsin's 1,000 by itself. It's going to take us 7 states to get 1,000 people.
yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, though. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be a great conference. So,
It will be. We're excited for it.
yep, awesome. All right, well, October 8th, I'll shoot out some more stuff, but we'll go with dig into it with chapter 1, and it's
Perfect.
a little bit longer one. I know that. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So we'll hit the highlights, survey centric stuff, and then hopefully we get good discussion coming out of it. So
yeah, exactly. I love it. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Sounds good. Thank you, fellas.
thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.